Hello, well, I hope you managed to have a good break. In this second part of the session, I want to talk you through a case study of the implementation of one of these recommendations from a school across the trust. So the school I'm going to talk about is Wilbraham Primary School. It's obviously one of the largest schools in our trust, situated in Manchester on the border of Valleyfield and Moorside. Wilbraham's a wonderful place with a wide range of different family backgrounds and a large number of different languages spoken in the school. High levels of pupil premium children as well, which makes it a really fascinating and interesting place to learn about these things. One of the strands of the Preparing for Literacy Guidance report that the staff at Wilbraham decided to focus on was the strand around developing the motivation to write, and in particular very much around the motivation to get their children writing in a regular way and producing their own stories as well as much as they could. So they started off thinking about how they were going to develop their children as storytellers, so that their children really were confident and had ideas around what they wanted to write or what they could write, and saw themselves as writers and people who had things to say. They used helicopter stories as a way of sparking that engagement with children. It's a very democratic and fair way of allowing children to become storytellers, to have their stories scribed and then to act them out, so they have an audience across with the whole school. As I said before, Sally Veal, the deputy head at Ashgrove Academy, is an expert at this and conducts trainings, and if you're interested in doing that, it's a wonderful thing to do, and I'm sure she would be delighted to support you further. So the staff at Wilbraham in the early years setting developed the helicopter stories and ensured that it was embedded so that all the children coming through the daily provision were given the opportunity to engage in helicopter story activity every single day. So it was a really consistent and persistent approach. The children were immersed in that opportunity to tell their own stories and to act them out. And as they went on, the children all of a sudden, through watching the modelling of the teacher's behaviour as the teacher, the scribing their stories, started to recognise themselves as storytellers, and that as soon as their physical ability to develop and to write and their understanding of the phonics helped develop them further, and they became storytellers. They begin to write their own stories, and those stories themselves are acted out in the next session. There's lots of confidence in their developing of their writing, and the children are independently writing now because they have an understanding that they can and they know what's going on. And as you read the stories as you go through, you can see the language coming from the regular storybook reading and the story sharing that happens widely across the setting as well. So we're again getting one of those lovely kind of reciprocal links backwards and forwards. The children are using that language that they're learning through the regular repeated reading of stories, and it's coming through in their own storytelling. And they see themselves as writers and communicators and having lots of confidence in their own ideas. Okay, so there are lots of other places that we can go to look for ideas and suggestions, really robust and evidenced ideas of suggestions that things might be effective when we're seeking to develop our children, particularly after this extended and strange period of time we find ourselves in. It's really important that we go back to the research evidence about what we might be able to do effectively, rather than simply relying on our own instincts and grabbing at whatever seems to be appropriate. So the What Works Clearinghouse has got a huge amount of information about programs and products and practices that are really robustly measured in the United States, and some of those may well translate well into our own classrooms. The Evidence for Impact database gives us some ideas around effective interventions. There's a spoiler alert here, there aren't so many that have been effectively trialled. And the Early Intervention Guidebook has got lots of information about interventions that are also effective that we could use too. So, there we are. I've come to the end of this presentation. I hope you found it interesting and things to talk about and things to reflect on and develop your own settings. Of course, we're here and available for you if for anybody else who would like to find out more or take it further. Just get in touch with some of the practitioners I've mentioned going through in this presentation, or you can contact me, Megan Dixon. My email address is mdixon@aet.cheshire.sch.uk, and I'll be delighted to help and think about what this might look like. So there we go. Take care and enjoy developing literacy in your settings.